A lot of marketing firms want to tout portfolios of work and awards and stuff like that. How about talking about a growth metric that you maximized for a client? Because that's really what they want. They don't want marketing, they want growth. You get a lot, especially with advertisers. They all want to skip the brand awareness investment phase and go straight to the bottom of the funnel. And conversion works a lot better when people know who you are.
Hello, Liberty Spenders. I am pumped because today's guest is Chance Benbow. He's CEO of JDA Worldwide, which is a full-service marketing agency that's landed on the Inc. 5000 list, along with some of its other family of companies like Prolific and a couple of other agencies. On the Inc. 5000 list of the fastest-growing private companies for 9 straight years. I did that once. So they're 9 ahead of me, and if they keep doing it every year, I'll never catch up, but that's pretty impressive. Since taking the helm in 2023, Chance has doubled revenue in his first year, but you've now been there more, and done it again in 2024. Before JDA, he co-founded Intersection, the most awarded agency in its region, and helped scale Main Street, run by our mutual friend Zeke Turner, into Indiana's fastest growing company. I'm really pumped to be doing this with you, Chance.
Yeah. Glad to be on, and thanks for having me.
You know, I remember, we hit the Inc. 5000 in, I think it was 2019, which was really cool.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought at the time, how would we ever do it again, right? Because to hit that over and over and over again means a pretty aggressive growth over time. And I think a lot of businesses fall apart growing that fast. We were just talking about IndyCar, right? I've learned in IndyCar, when you're going 250 miles an hour, even little slight problems are big problems. So talk about that. How do you guys achieve rapid growth, but also not be the proverbial car falling apart while you're doing it?
Well, let's just say we've had our fair share of pit stops over here.
Right.
Some lasted a little bit longer than others, but no, the growth thing has been a tremendous blessing. Really, I think the story that kind of catapulted our growth was in 2017. And we were talking about them earlier before the show started, Museum of the Bible. So when Museum of the Bible opened up, we were lucky enough to be selected as the agency record to take Museum of the Bible to the market from a market standpoint. And we had always had a lot of really good brand awareness through our work with Answers in Genesis and the Creation Museum and the Ark Encounter. But when we got the Museum of the Bible account and were able to partner with the Greens and take that to market, that really became a big magnet for us to represent a lot of enterprise faith brands and a lot of brands that are secular that are led by faith-based leaders. So I would say that 2017 was really kind of the start of the big growth trajectory for us. And a big part of that was the national campaign and taking this $500 million museum right on the Washington Mall alongside a bunch of Smithsonian quality museums to market. And it was a big deal for us.
Well, and it's such a cool experience. And maybe what I need to do is just go through your client list for good podcast guests, because I've had Answers in Genesis and Creation Museum on, which was a really fun episode. And then we had Steve Green on, and he talked about the Museum of the Bible some, which I picked up quickly that he'd rather talk about that than Hobby Lobby. That's where his passion truly is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Steve is so articulate and passionate about the Museum of the Bible and the Bible in general. And one of my favorite things that he talks about is the Dead Sea Scrolls, which shameless plug for the museum right now, are on display at the moment. But when you go back and look at these ancient texts that were found in these clay jars, when you translate them into modern day, there's like a 99.99% accuracy from these Dead Sea Scrolls that were, crafted thousands of years ago all the way until today. So, some would say that's a little evidentiary, but I think for us, it's just more confirmation that this is truly living, breathing, accurate Word of God. And it was true back then in the Dead Sea Scrolls, as it is on our YouVersion app, as it is in the Bibles we walk in with church every day. So hearing Steve articulate that, which I've had the benefit of hearing him speak both at the museum and keynoting for some of our other clients, he's so well-versed in those topics.
Such a powerful experience. I am of what they did. And then you mentioned a Creation Museum. Now, I am a little bit ashamed to say, despite the fact that Kristen's family lives nearby, I've actually never been. But you can't miss it driving along the highway. And it's such, they're having a ton of success as well. They're building on a new addition. I've seen their updates on it on social media. And so 2 really great brands to be promoting.
No question. They're fantastic. And we've had the benefit of working with Answers in Genesis before there was a Creation Museum, let alone before there was the Ark Encounter. And, Ken Ham is a brilliant thought leader and, really has dedicated his life to finding the answers to some of the most complicated questions. How did we get here? Where did I come from and all of the things that come along with that. And he's an authority in that space. And, really being able to help people develop a biblical worldview, especially in today's day and age that we live in, is such a fun partnership, and nobody does it better than them. And it's a fun one to dig in on, to just say, hey, there is an entire organization fully dedicated to just helping people have a biblical worldview, and a perfect time in life for us to think about that.
Yeah. So I like the story of becoming the Museum of the Bible's agency of record. Okay, so let's say a bunch of my audience, because I know this is true, are small business owners, right? They might be big enough to be thinking about things like, I need an agency of record. But explain that to people. What does that mean for JDA? I'm the agency of record. What do you do for people that qualifies for that? What's that mean?
Sure. Well, and that's the fun thing too, is, we don't really discriminate based on revenue or size. Like, we have organizations that we work with who have as little as, a couple $1 million in top line revenue, all the way up to hundreds of millions of dollars of top line revenue. And for us, being, like having an agency of record type of relationship, it really just allows us to bring all of our capabilities to bear. And we're a full service agency. So we have several practices in the firm that we do individually or in unison. So we have a web team that develops websites in-house. We have a digital marketing team that does everything from search to data to reporting, email, social, everything in between. We have a creative team. We have a brand team. We have an earned media team. We have a paid media subsidiary underneath the umbrella as well. So pretty much everything in the marketing and communication suite that we do. And our favorite opportunities are when we get to bring all of those capabilities to bear. But that's not the formula that every partner needs. Sometimes it's a brand fix. Other times it is truly a web fix. Other times it's a crisis communications plan that needs developed. But some of our clients do need that full force that we're able to bring. So we love coming in from several different angles, but across any of those practices, we have phenomenal leaders, and it's fun to just bring those capabilities to bear to tell their story more and ultimately grow what matters most. I think a lot of marketing firms want to tout portfolios of work and awards and stuff like that. And it's like, how about talking about a growth metric that you maximized for a client? Because that's really what they want. They don't want marketing. They want growth. And oftentimes that means more impact, more revenue, more brand relevancy. And those are the stories we actually like the most.
Yeah. Well, we did get to talk about 2 cool clients in the Museum of the Bible and Answers in Genesis, but maybe you have, I don't want to use the word favorite because all of your clients are your favorites, right? Yeah. But maybe have a cool transformational story that you think is a good example of the kind of work you do.
Yeah, our favorite one is probably the fastest growing ministry in the country that we're aware of, and they've been a partner of ours for a while, Big Life. So Big Life is a disciple making ministry, and they're making disciples in over 180 countries. And this organization is awesome. And I hesitate to even use them as an example because the way that the Lord is moving through that organization, we've gotten to play a role in it, but they are on fire, and the Spirit is really just pumping through that ministry in a really powerful way. But they're just a radically simple group of people who are all on mission to make disciples who make disciples who make disciples. And their impact has been felt probably more abroad than it has here in the United States. And it's a disciple making ministry. So they go deep and wide into a few people in an indigenous country or in a tribe or in a village, typically in unreached people groups. And it's just a really simple model. They go in to a country and they go on a prayer walk and they find a person of peace, and they go deep into that person of peace, share with them the love of Jesus. And then that person is equipped to go back to their village or their tribe or their city with, the customs known, with the language known. They like the food. They understand some of those nuances. And then they're the ones who spread Jesus to their local group. And that has just happened countless times. I'm talking 4, 5, 6 generations deep and, over 100 countries. So they're awesome. The leader of that ministry is a guy named John Harima, and he's one of the best leaders that I've ever come in contact with. And when everyone was pulling out of Afghanistan in 2021 with that mess, Big Life went in because they believe that chaos creates opportunity. And over 50,000 Afghans were safely evacuated just through their networks and through some of the bravery that they existed. And they actually did it in collaboration with the U.S. government, believe it or not.
Wow.
So you just talk about being able to use your gifts for something good. Now there's huge disciple-making movements happening all throughout Afghanistan and Pakistan and places like that, all because they decided we were going to go into the chaos and trust the Spirit to move. And sure enough, it has. And they just have this beautiful, radically simple model of, finding a person of peace, going deep into that person, and then watching the disciple-making movement spread like wildfire just by equipping them with the basics of Scripture and obedience. It's pretty awesome.
Sounds awesome. And I've not heard of them.
Big Life. Check them out. They are a great group of folks. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Completely different question. You're fitting JDA in who you are on a bumper sticker. What's it say? Yeah.
JDA is the full service agency for the few who want to grow big and live their values. That's probably not quite a bumper sticker, but
it's a long one.
Yeah. We want to do full service marketing for people who want to grow and who want to change the world. And we're not a great fit when only one of those things are true. We don't do great with the sharp elbows, growth by any means necessary. And we're also not great on the soft, let's make an impact, but who cares if we grow? We're good when both of those things are true. And I would say we really thrive with purpose-driven leaders. Oftentimes that means faith-oriented, but we represent a ton of really cool for-profit and nonprofit leaders who want to do big things. So anyone who's really driven by purpose, we're typically a pretty good fit.
If you're listening to this show, it's probably because you understand something most people don't. Marketing to Liberty spenders isn't just about ads or tactics, it's about trust. And in the real world, trust moves through relationships. And that's why private introductions and deal flow are such a core part of what we do.
So FastPass is a private introduction and deal flow network for Christian and conservative leaders who already have influence and want to scale fast. It's not open networking, it's intentional introductions between people who already share alignment. We've seen one client land a $25,000 opportunity from a single introduction. Another told us that FastPass has become his largest source of referrals, not because of volume, but because of fit. And yet another closed her equity round at a key moment just due to the right introduction.
When you book a one-to-one consult with us, we're not handing you a list or making big promises. Instead, we're having a real conversation about what you're building, who you want to meet, and whether FastPass makes sense for this season for you. So no pressure, no hustle, and no awkward pitch from us.
Yeah. If you're ready to grow through relationships instead of forcing everything on your own, head to libertyspenders.com/FastPass and book a one-to-one consult with us.
In worst case, you leave with clarity. Best case, the right introductions change the trajectory of what you're building.
Okay, back to the episode.
One of these firms that are now part of the JDA world is, you acquired a PR and comms firm not too long ago. How did that change the DNA? What did that add to your world?
It was a huge, huge win for us. We acquired the Kairos company, and the funny thing was we had bumped into them on a few different accounts, and JDA historically had been full service without a PR practice. And all of a sudden we meet the Kairos company, and the way I've always described it, I'll never forget, they all came to Indianapolis, and Kurt, it felt like a family reunion where it's like, we've never met any of you people, but we are family, because there are so few of us who want to run toward organizations that are faith-driven and that sort of a thing. And yet we would bump into Kairos frequently. And to be able to bring a PR practice to our base of clients was a huge win. And it was just something that we would usually just say, hey, we don't do it. You're going to have to, find somebody else. But now it's a real arrow in the quiver of the things that we do. And it's just something that we've been able to really equip our current base of customers with. And we have several clients who that's all they want to do. And having it in-house is such a blessing, and it was values aligned from the jump, so we didn't have any of that integration challenge.
Yeah, that's awesome. So what you guys are building is great, but I'm always interested in how you got here. So were you always in marketing? Did you start somewhere else? How did you get here to the role you're into today?
Yeah. So I grew up in an entrepreneurial advertising family, so it's in the blood for sure. And had an unpaid internship back in 2008, which was a great experience. But really, when this took hold for me, I took a really cool class at Anderson University, my alma mater, and it was a marketing class, and we actually got to manage an account. Throughout an entire semester. You might remember the name Irwin Union Bank in Indianapolis. That was and we, for a whole summer, did a campaign for them. We tried to understand some of their unique differentiation. How are they different from some of the banks in Indianapolis? And we pitched them the campaign and managed the account. And right when we did that, I was like, this is what I want to do. And myself and a dear friend of mine, we actually started an agency together in college and helped pay for school. We did car dealerships, we did sports complexes, coffee shops, things like that. And we did some really cool work to just cut our teeth. And it was because of that work that both of us got pretty solid jobs right out of college, because we actually had a portfolio of work where it's like, okay, this isn't just speculative. Like, we've been doing this for, a couple of years, and, we're not too bad at it.
That's cool. I started my little political marketing agency when I was in college. I'll never forget just how overly confident I was in my ability. If George Bush, president of the United States, would have called me right out of college to run his reelect, I would have said, man, I don't know why it took you so long. I remember that. I know it. I've got it down. Well,
the funny second part of that story, Kurt, is Andy Kennedy and I are the ones who started that together. And we met with my dad our senior year, because we were like, hey, we're going to give this thing a go. And we meet with him, and, my dad was super gracious, and he was, like, hey, how much do you guys want to, make? And we said, I don't know, like between 30 and 40,000. This is 2009.
Right.
It's crazy to hear those numbers nowadays, but yeah. And he's like, yeah, you know, and you'll want an office, right? Yeah.
Okay.
Computers. Yes. Software. Yes. All this stuff. So he's like, yeah, that all sounds great. Are you guys eventually going to hire people? And we said, yeah, you know, eventually. He's like, good. Well, before you even think about hiring somebody, you know, you guys need to be able to generate about $25,000 of revenue every month. Are you prepared for that? And we had a awesome campaign that we did for a car dealership in Muncie. It actually helped sell the second most trucks in the entire state during that truck month. And we got paid, I think, $2,000 to do that. So Andy and I were just like, man, we're going to need 12 American Chevys every month to be $1,000 short of breaking even. So, you know, after that, we decided, okay, like, let's go test the waters and see, you know, what's out there. But after about 6 months of being in our first jobs, we called each other up and we were like, we're going for it. Like, you know, get the 25K a month, break even. Like we're going to do it and we're going to do it right. And, sure enough, we ended up, doing just that. But it was a fun journey.
Yes. I remember those days. I kind of miss them. I miss the days traveling around the country, sleeping in my car because I couldn't afford a hotel room, meeting with anybody who would take meetings. Anyone.
We had an office in Traverse City, Michigan, but we were both from Muncie. And little known fact, it is 6 hours from Traverse City to Muncie. And the way that we would do that, again, no money. Andy had a manual Volkswagen Jetta. It was like a diesel. So the thing got incredible gas mileage. We would get up at 3:30, be on the road by 4, go and meet folks in Muncie from 10 to 4. And then we would go back home and just because we couldn't afford a hotel or anything like that. So we did that round trip a handful of times, and I don't think I could ever do that again. But we made it work back in those days. Yes.
I've become a bit of a ninny about flying places too recently. And so I drove to Charlotte, North Carolina a few weeks ago. And that reminded me of those days. I think maybe I'm too nostalgic because driving again 9 hours one way. I thought maybe I should have flown. Could have gotten a direct flight from American. It's such a great story, though. Those, you know, when you start your business and you build something, and then to see where you're at now. It's what everybody said, right? You're an overnight success after, 10 years of hoofing it back and forth from Traverse City to Muncie, right?
Yeah, that's right.
So I know that like us, you guys are a values first kind of organization. You want to work with values based founders. People are looking for impact. A lot of times people of faith. What do you think that actually looks like when you're a company that values faith and values that makes you different than just any other cool marketing agency that's out there?
Yeah, I think it's a couple things. The first one is, we only have one life. And while we're here, why don't we give our highest and best to folks who are going to expand the kingdom? I think that's one factor in this. The other part, Kurt, that strikes us is, shouldn't these faith-oriented organizations and purpose-driven organizations have Madison Avenue quality marketing too? And the best compliment we've ever gotten is, we had someone share with us that we have Madison Avenue chops with like a Midwestern sensibility. And I think what they meant by that was, you guys, live your values, but you also can go toe to toe with some of these big, Madison Avenue sort of, agencies. And, we've gone toe to toe and won a few times, probably lost more than we've won, but we really like going upstream and representing category leading national brands. And, we love doing that. And the other part of that, though, is like, while we're here with this little time we have, why not bring all of our skills for, organizations who really need it most?
I deal with this some. I think about this a lot, particularly when I'm working with impact-minded people. And we've worked in politics for years, so I'm working for these people because I believe in what they do, but I also need to make money so I can actually execute on the work, it creates a tension sometimes. Everyone I meet with, I'm thinking, boy, I care about what they're doing so much. I got to give them a good deal, right? And, you do that with 75% of your clients, and you find yourself doing all the work yourself because you can't afford to have good Madison Avenue quality people. How do you guys balance that, right? You've got to, you're trying to change the world with these people, but, you're a business after all. So how do you guys balance that?
Yeah, the biggest win for us in this dynamic is we do represent a lot of, call it, secular type of organizations. We do a lot in healthcare. We do a lot in food and beverage and consumer packaged goods, sports and entertainment, things of that nature. So being able to enjoy partners who, we can still bring them tremendous value, but get, closer to normal, rates that are fair and what the market will bear, allow us to then, bring our very best to some of these emerging category leading values driven orgs who, we want to provide them value. And, we typically don't do a ton of pro bono work really because we want our partners to see the value in what we bring. And, it's important to us that we are providing that to them. So honestly, man, we feel more responsibility to deliver the highest and best value to those who don't have a ton, simply out of the spirit of stewardship, of just saying, we have to be great stewards of what you've given us because we know it's maybe a disproportionate amount of a budget or things like that. So that is the one positive to this too, is we try to be really thoughtful, excellent stewards of the fees that a lot of our clients give us because we know, it's hard earned and we take that really seriously.
So every business, particularly a successful one, has a sacred cow. If there's a sacred cow at JDA, what is it?
Oh man, we are going to represent purpose-driven leaders for as long as we're here. If someone ever came to us and said, well, Chance, if you guys end up on the front cover of the Indy Star for being these, people who represent, Christians and, why are you mixing faith and business together? You shouldn't do that because it's going to cost you talent and it's going to cost you this and it's going to cost you that. We would say, fine, then we'll go down with the ship. But I can promise you that we will always run toward those who are advancing the kingdom and up to good things. So if anyone ever came to us and they're like, we don't think you should mix faith and business or anything like that, we would be like, okay, then we're probably not the perfect fit. So we'll always do that.
Yeah. I love that. Now, I work with my wife, and that takes a certain amount of discipline. But your dad, Brad, is involved in your businesses too. So, what's the most interesting father-son experience that you've had working together?
Oh man, that's a great question. The cool thing with our relationship is we have a friendship outside of a father-son relationship, and that has been a tremendous blessing. And, I had a conversation with Ben Connor Insurance. If you haven't had him on, have him on. He's got an awesome story. But, we were talking about the family business dynamic and, some of the pros and cons that go along with that. And one of the things he told me is he was like, Chance, one day you are not going to be working with your dad anymore. And he's like, if I would have braced myself for that earlier, I would have really enjoyed some of the final years that we got to work together more than I did. I would have cherished them. I would have taken stock of them. And my dad and I were on our way home from Oklahoma City, and we had a flight delay. we bellied up at the bar and just like, we're sitting there talking. And I actually in that moment paused for a second and was like, you know what? Like, this is fun. Like, we just met with one of our big oil and gas clients. We, met with another faith-based account while we're out there, and we're, in the airport, just getting to sit back and say, wow, this is a special thing that we get to do together. So I would say, for us, I don't think I have an awesome story other than the fact that like our working relationship is, very macro managed. We talk a lot about all the things that are going on, but he's been a really good partner in letting JDA kind of operate within sort of the pathway that he's blazed, but under kind of the new direction and structure and things like that I've been able to do alongside our awesome leadership team. So, but I'd say the biggest thing is just enjoying this chapter together. As long as he's 66 now, will be this year. So he's not going to work forever. But boy, he has got a lot of gas left in the tank, and it's been fun to get to go a few laps with him. This will be our 10th year doing it together. So it's been fun.
Well, hey, I'm a big believer that you should retire the day you die. Too many people believe in this weird thing where we work and then we hit a special age. I'm 62. Now I'm supposed to go move to Florida and wear weird white shoes and play shuffleboard. And you just lose purpose in life, right? I mean, you do this work because you believe in it.
Yeah.
And so hopefully he's still cranking in his 80s there. We'll see. Maybe he'll want to retire before that, but
I don't think so. I think the Vegas odds have more of that than not, and especially as all the portfolio companies continue to mature and are operating really well without him having to be nose in and hands in. I think it'll really allow him to do some of the things he does best, like drive really good strategy for the clients, monetize his network, some of those things, and everyone will benefit from that. And it's a special thing, and we're working toward that really well right now, and that's been fun to see.
Yeah. Well, I think it's advice time for brands. So, I mean, you've worked for a variety of clients. If you had to say, what's the way that most organizations you're dealing with are wasting money? What is the most common thing that you're like, man, if you could stop doing this, hire me or not, just stop doing this thing?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is there is no silver bullet in marketing. There's not. If there were, we wouldn't exist.
Right.
So at the end of the day, I don't care what the communication channel or medium is. Product A has a story to tell audience B. How that story is crafted, how it's differentiated, how it's positioned, that really matters. Your brand in the story that you're taking to the market matters so much. And a lot of people skip that part in the process as they think about vision, values, mission, all of that. That stuff matters. But even why do we exist? What is it that we do? How do we do it? And how are we different than our competitors? Who do we actually serve in pursuit of these things? Having really good messaging and storytelling for those pillars is vitally important. Then you say, okay, we actually have a really good story. It's differentiated. It's unique. It calls people to action. It moves people to action. Where are we showing up in the world where we need to on a website or on social or things of that nature? Let's make sure that all those touch points are really good. But then how are we in a full funnel media mix getting our story out to those who need it? Through paid media, through earned media, through owned media. Those then are the opportunities to say, okay, through a campaign or through a specified initiative, we are going to take this core message and we are going to make sure that it is delivered in a way that really is authentic and inspired. So, I'd say for one, start from the ground up, build a really strong foundation on your story and why it matters and why people should care, right? Brands aren't what you say they are. It's what your audience says they are. So let's give them an authentic, inspired story that really causes them to move. And then no matter the communication medium, no matter the channel, make sure that it's consistent and that the message is, within the brand story that you've established. So that's kind of my take. You get a lot, especially with advertisers. They all want to skip the brand awareness investment phase and go straight to the bottom of the funnel. And, conversion works a lot better when people know who you are. And that takes time and it takes investment and it takes a lot of energy. So that full funnel sort of investment is vital for brands. And it's no fun investing in the top of the funnel because it's expensive and it takes a lot of time. Everyone wants to shoot directly down to the bottom. And that bottom of the funnel works a lot better when you're actually known and known really well.
Yeah. Well, look, I can put an exclamation point on that in the world of politics, right? We do a lot of online fundraising and everybody just wants me to run an email campaign. Go out and get a bunch of emails and let's send emails and we'll raise money. And no one wants to invest the time and effort in the brand awareness. It's not a political campaign. They'll do it in the end to win votes, but they want me to operate in a vacuum for online fundraising. Send enough emails and the world will work. And just, it doesn't work out that way. Every once in a while, somebody gets lucky, and then that somehow becomes the template for every other person who comes to knocking on my door. Hey, I had, Kim Klasick had a big viral video and raised $2 million online. I want that. And, and that happens once every couple of years. And then that becomes the bane of my existence because people just don't want to make that investment.
Yeah. Make me go viral. It's like, it doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
And if there were a formula for going viral, I think you'd see it more, but these things often take on a life of their own. And don't get me wrong, capitalize on the viral moment for sure. Being able to, from the jump, say, I'm going to produce a grassroots viral video. I haven't seen that one yet.
No, I tell people, here's the problem with that. Every time I've succeeded in making something viral, it's always been the thing I thought wasn't particularly strong enough to go viral. And the things that I were absolutely convinced were going to really take off haven't. And the formula for it is so unpredictable. And sometimes it's about what's happening today in the world, and it just happens to hit at the right time, or just so happens that the right influencer sees this thing just by chance, right? And so I've had some things we've made over the years, get international coverage, sometimes not for the right reasons, but you never can quite predict it. So I think that's a valuable lesson too, that sort of investment in brand awareness that people want to skip,
Yeah.
And that, I see it all the time. This has been great, but I want to get into our lightning round. So here we go. It is, we're going to do 3 questions, 90 seconds each, low accountability on the 90 seconds, but we'll give it a try. I want to start first with a question about legacy. I want you to imagine decades and decades from now, hopefully decades and decades, you're lying in your bed, you're looking back on your life and your final days. How will you know that you've had a life well lived?
I think 2 things. One, did we continue to drive impact for some of the most impactful organizations in the country? Our mission at JDA is to empower the extraordinary. We know what extraordinary means when we double click into that within our context. So I want to keep doing that. And we are able to do that every day, and it is a blessing. So I think that's one. The other one is, I've always been really motivated to help my dad finish strong. I was very reluctant to join the family business. The first half of my career, I was dead set on not doing that for all the obvious sort of nepotism reasons and things like that. Right. And, I just never wanted the I never wanted the label of, just join the family business. So really the first half of my career, I bucked that trend. But when I decided it was time to do that, I told my dad, I was like, look, I don't want any equity. I don't want you to feel like you have to pass the torch. I just want to help you finish this strong, whatever that looks like. And this is year 10 of doing that. So whenever that time comes, I want to be able to look back and say, hey, I played a big role in helping my dad finish strong. So those are probably the two I care about. And probably the third one is we have a tremendous leadership team at JDA right now. Like every one of the practice leaders are incredible, talented people who are selfless and for the team. And boy, do I want to lead them really well. I want to show up well for them. I want to lead them well. And if all of them have ascended in a big way and stayed intact within the agency, then I'll count that as a humongous one.
All right. Now a completely different one. 90 seconds on a topic that's been interesting you lately, but it has to be kind of off topic. It's not marketing or JDA related. Maybe it's a hobby, sports team you're a big fan of, great book you read. What's got you going down the rabbit hole?
Well, a book I've read, I'm trying to read more this year. It's been a New Year's resolutions. I do not like to read. I want to read. So I finished Essentialism earlier this year, and I am on to Mere Christianity. So I kind of have a trio of book topics. I have some business books, I have some faith books, and I have a couple golf books. I'm a big golf. So right now, trying to have more of an essentialist mindset has been good for me to just think about, is this the highest, best use of my time? And being a little bit more deliberate on some of the filtering that goes into decisions to be made, especially for JDA, but, even just in, my personal life. So that one has been really good. But I'd say, another just topic that's been fun. I'm a big Chicago Bears fan. And this whole, should they move to Northwest Indiana? Should they go out to Arlington Park? Or will somehow Chicago give them a sweet enough deal to stick in downtown, has been of great interest to me. So it's just interesting. I loved seeing Indiana state government step up to the plate and hopefully give the Bears an offer that they can't refuse. So I'm really hopeful for that. It would cut my commute time to see them down by about, an hour, 45 minutes or so. And as a Bears fan, it would be pretty sweet to just buzz up 65 and hopefully go to a few more games every year than the one I go to every year or two. So I'm very excited watching that unfold and just understanding some of the dynamics of that situation with, the owners have only ever been a part of the team. They've not had a career in business and then bought a team out of their excess. So the Bears being profitable matters to them far more than most owners because they've just always been in the business of the team. So this deal that Indiana is putting forth disproportionately benefits them in the long run. So I'm kind of hoping that it works out that way. We'll see.
I think it'd be awesome. Look, I'm a Colts fan, although I'm sort of mad at the Colts right now. I mean, it's like we are determined to be mediocre, right? If nothing else, last year was a perfect example that we go 8-2, and it's like the whole team said, "Wait a second, we're not an 8-2 team. We're the Colts. We haven't had Peyton Manning around for 15 years. We can't do this." And then just lost everything else. It was so inconceivably bad. I thought maybe I just should be an IU fan. Kurt Cignetti seems to get the idea of winning, right? Here's a guy who won't accept mediocrity. And so having the Bears in Indiana, maybe it gives me, maybe I have another team I can go that I'm not so emotionally involved in. Because the Colts just have me all tied up in knots.
If Daniel Jones is healthy, they will make the playoffs. The one thing several of my buddies are big Colts fans. And I know people have mixed feelings on Ballard and things like that, but typically the roster construction for the Colts has been pretty darn good. They've just been in quarterback purgatory for a long time. And if Daniel Jones plays at the level that he played at before he got hurt, I think you'll see a 10-11 win team in Indy. And I'm all for that. I mean, everyone's got to have an AFC team as well. And they have the team to do it. It just goes to show you, especially in the NFL, how important the quarterback position is and a pass rusher. I mean, those two roles in particular. And then you say, okay, is a tackle of equal importance and, some of those things. But I tell you, a lot of it is the quarterback and then getting after the quarterback in the NFL.
Yeah. Well, absolutely. If we've learned nothing in the last, 10 plus years, is that we should have spent some dang money on a quarterback much sooner than we did. And this sort of patchwork of guys in their retirement didn't make a lot of sense. It was fun to watch Phillip Rivers play. It was fun. But I'm sitting there thinking to myself saying, Daniel Jones isn't getting back for the playoffs. Phillip Rivers isn't going to take us to the Super Bowl. In the meantime, we got a young quarterback with some potential in Riley Leonard. Mm-hmm. Let the dude play. And when he did play, he wasn't half bad.
Yeah.
I was impressed with him, but we did the Phillip Rivers show for anyway. This was supposed to be 90 seconds. I'm going to turn it into 90 minutes because I get worked up about my Colts. I have a 3-year-old and a 5-year-old, so getting to games became a lot tougher. Mm-hmm. So that's my excuse, because we didn't renew our season tickets, I thought. Because I got to pay for them now. I can't just put them on our laps. And so we dropped them, but at the moment I dropped my season tickets, they're 8-2, and I'm thinking, well, clearly we know what the problem was all this time, was me at the football games.
It's Kurt. That's right.
It's me the whole time. I want to end with the final question, really being just an offer for you to make a good 90-second pitch for JDA. So I want you to kind of pretend people didn't hear all the great stuff you've already said. What, in 90 seconds, who are you? Who's JDA? What do you guys do? Who should find you? Like who's your ideal customer? How do you do your transformations? That's a lot in 90 seconds, but see what you can do.
Sure. Well, JDA, we are a full service marketing agency. So we do everything from brand and creative to digital and web to earned media, paid media, and owned media. And the reason we do that is because we understand that you as a business owner have dedicated your entire life to some product or service that dictates your livelihood. And what we exist to do is tell as many people your story who need to hear it as possible. And we want to tell that story in a way that is compelling and authentic and moves them to action. So oftentimes we think more of our partners than they even think of themselves sometimes. And when you are a business owner or a founder or a business leader, you are so close to your operation that it's tough sometimes to pull up out of the weeds and really see why a consumer would choose you or why they wouldn't. And we are in the business of making sure that your story is as inspired and as authentic as it possibly can be. And we want to drive and move as many people toward your product or service as possible. That could be a nonprofit, that could be a widget, that could be a restaurant, that could be an athletic team, whatever it is. We want to put it in the highest, brightest light possible and drive as many people there as we can. And we really like doing that when the product or service is changing the world. And that's our key differentiator.
I love it. It's been great to have you on, Chance. For people who want to learn more, you can find Chance at JDAWorldwide.com. And you're probably on LinkedIn as well. Find Chance there too. It's been great to have you. And for those of you who are tuning in and you've given us 45 minutes of your time, I really appreciate it because I know how valuable it is. You got a lot going on and you spent 45 minutes with me. So thank you so much. If you'd like to hear more of this stuff and share with others, do like and subscribe and come back that way you can come back for our next episode. And for those of you who want to learn more about what Kristen and I are up to, check it out at www.libertyspenders.com. Until next time, folks, we'll see you then.